Can God use little old me to do something great? You ever had that question? Can God use me with my limited abilities, my limited capabilities, to see great miracles happen on earth here? Have you ever had that question? See some nods, I see some, I don't know. Uh-oh. If you had, I think today's Bible study will be an encouragement to you. You see, towards the end of my career playing football, I actually ended up playing the last 5 years of my career in the Arena Football League. And something started changing where God started giving me more and more of a burden for people and where they're going to spend eternity, where they're at with their relationship with God. I'll never forget, probably my 4th year in the league, I played receiver, I would catch like a big touchdown, it would be 3rd and goal or whatever, I'd score a touchdown, and a lot of times, early in my career, I'd be like, yeah, and I'd be all excited, and it'd be great. But towards the end of my career, I'd catch it, and then I'd look up into the crowd. And there in the arena, there'd be, 10, 15, if it's a huge arena, it'd be 20,000 people. And I remember scoring a touchdown, looking up in the crowd, and I remember going, where are they going to spend eternity? Where are they with God right now? And so as God transitioned me out of football into ministry, that was one of the main factors leading me to make an impact, to be used by God for people to understand who He is. Now, not to mention the fact I was getting old and my hamstrings had it, and we had a young family and we needed to start getting some stability. Have you had that thought when you look into the crowds, where are people going at? My wife and I were just on date night Friday. We were at a local restaurant here in Omaha, and my wife asked me a similar question. She said, how many people do you think in this restaurant are going to heaven? I looked at her and I was like, I don't know. What would you say? If you go to a typical West Omaha restaurant, you look around, where are people with God? When they step into eternity, where are they going? Do you have that? Do you ever have that question going on? It's interesting because the Bible says in Matthew 7 that narrow is the gate and there are few who find it. Because broad is the way that leads to destruction and there are many that are going in. So Jesus' own words is surmising there's a whole group of people that need to be reached with who He truly is. Now, there's 2 reactions. For those of you guys that have had that thought before, there's generally 2 things that go down. One, I call it paralysis by analysis. And that is, you look out in the vast amount of people all over, and there's a tendency to go, yes, I see the bulk of humanity are going straight down to hell. What can one person, little me, do anything about it? And I think sometimes in the church today we have that mentality, and as a result, we just get paralyzed. I'm analyzing the situation. It's so great. What can I do? Little old me, what can I do to affect such a large mass of people? Have you ever had that? It's kind of like you guys that have, I know a guy in particular that has a basement storage area. And the thing looks like World War IV hit. I mean, it's just stuff everywhere. Some of you guys have that. And sometimes you go, I need to go clean that storage area. Or it's your garage, maybe. I need to go do it. But then you go walk into the garage or the storage area and you go, this is overwhelming. What do I do? And you go, all right, the game's on. Let me get some chips. All right, let's do it next week, right? And some of you ladies are elbowing your husbands right now going, yeah, that's my husband right there. But it's paralysis by analysis. But some of you guys in here say, I hear what you're saying, preacher, and that's my heart, and I don't have a whole lot, but what I do have, I'm going to give to God, and I'm going to trust that He's going to take it and bless it and multiply it, and I'm going to see something crazy happen through my little meager life. We're going to see the Messiah's multiplication method that will show you from His way of doing things that you can be used by God to affect many, many people. And I pray, as a church, that's all of our hearts. Here's what happens. If you and I collectively, one-on-one, have that heart and trust God to do miracles, watch the community around you just start lighting on fire for Christ. And people start understanding truly who God is. That's my heart. And that's the question that I want to challenge with us today. Now, look at John chapter 6. We're going to pick up the story in verse 1. You know, you guys have been at Calvary. We've been working our way through the book of John. The book of John, again, is the fourth of the Gospels or accounts of Christ in the New Testament. The Apostle John, which is one of Jesus' tight homeboys, is basically writing this. It's God through John, expressing that Jesus was indeed God in the flesh, and by believing in him, you will be blessed. You will have a connection with your God. And we pick it up now in John 6, verse 1. It says this: After these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. Then a great multitude followed him because they saw his signs, which he performed on those who were diseased. And Jesus went up on the mountain, and there he sat with his disciples. Now the Passover, feast of the Jews, was near. Then Jesus lifted up his eyes, and seeing a great multitude coming toward him, he said to Philip, not the guitar player, but Philip here, where shall we buy bread that these may eat? Interesting. So you see this set. Now verse 1 says, after these things. Well, after what things? We've seen in the first 5 chapters, God start Jesus performing miracle after miracle. You know, we saw the water turn to wine, right? We saw the nobleman's son healed 20 miles away with just a word. We saw the man that was lame from his birth 38 years, instantaneously healed. And actually the Jewish leadership at that time were mad because he did it on the Sabbath. So last week we saw this discourse between Jesus and the Jewish leadership talking about, man, I've thrown these signs out that I am the Messiah. These ropes of grace, we've turned them. And so we've seen this go down. Scholars suggest between chapter 5 and chapter 6, there is basically about 6 months to a year of a lot of this type of stuff going on. Miracle after miracle. And so as a result, there's this huge throng of people that start following Jesus. Now, this great multitude you see in verse 2 starts following him. In verse 3, Jesus went up on the mountain with his disciples. And here you see the original small group. You know at Calvary, what do we talk about? We talk about we want to do church well, we want to do small groups well, and we want to do outreach well. And we call them CK groups, and our whole vision is study, share, support, serve, search. And that's basically what's going down here. Jesus takes his homeboys up on the mountain, and he starts hanging out with them. And I will tell you this, it's so crucial for you to pray about getting involved in a group of believers just like this, where you sit with Jesus, studying his word, and you grow with one another, and you walk forward in your walk with Christ. Now, verse 4 says it was the Passover. And we know from Exodus 18 what Passover was. The Jews are there in Egypt. Moses is about to lead them through the Red Sea, take them out of Egypt. And the last plague that God's putting on the Egyptians was what? The firstborn was going to be killed out of every house in Egypt. Unless the Jews, he told the Jews, take a lamb, kill it, take the blood and put it on the doorpost and the lintel of the house. So when the angel of death passes through Egypt, he sees that blood and he passes over that place. Hence the term Passover. And God said, hey, make sure that you guys celebrate this deliverance that I've given you. So that's what they're doing. They're coming back up to Jerusalem there to celebrate Passover. So Jesus sees the big multitude of people there, and he says, man, how are we going to hook up a bunch of bread for these guys? And I like that too, because Jesus is always looking out not only for your spiritual well-being, but your physical well-being as well. And again, as a body of believers, that's our heart. When you look at our vision, it's love, serve, equip, right? We want to serve. We want to practically serve. And what you see is that's Jesus' heart. You know, this past Christmas, we did something called the Christmas drop-in. You guys remember what we did with that? Basically, in the community, we asked all of our small groups to identify someone that was going through a tough time financially or whatever the case is. And we said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to pray about that family. And whoever has that connection with that person, they will go to their house and actually take them out to dinner. Now our small group goes in, starts cleaning up their house, sets up a Christmas tree, gives them a bunch of gifts, and we say, hey man, this is from Jesus. This is God's heart of love for you. You're going through a tough time, but hold on. You're going to